2 or 3 years ago, I did the mid-year freakout tag, and I did it composing a whole bunch of different clips together because at that point I only had time to film like 1 minute intervals at a time, and I am in that exact same space right now. Here is my 2025 mid-year freakout tag. The first question is the best book you've read so far. And that to me would have to be Death of the Author. This has been on my mind quite a lot lately. I read it back in February and it's now June, and I still think about Zelu. I absolutely adored this piece. This followed Zelu, who is sort of struggling. She's lost her job, and she decides, as a sort of cathartic way of dealing with it, she writes this book called Rusted Robots. And it becomes super popular. It gets bought out for a movie. She makes millions of dollars. And it's kind of her whole journey and her reaction to fame and her family's reaction. And her family life is so complex and so intricate. I absolutely adored this one for its exploration of sort of Nigerian culture and disability and how people view others with disabilities. A lot of this book has to deal with body autonomy and choosing for oneself, and I absolutely adored this one. This is my top one for sure. The best sequel I've read so far is The Trials of Empire by Richard Swan. This book was incredible. It was the end of this trilogy, the Empire of the Wolf trilogy, and it was absolutely immaculate. Just chef's kiss. Oh, it was beautiful. This is following a clerk to a justice. I've talked about this book ad nauseum. There is a lot of eldritch horror. There's a lot of political machinations, and there's a lot of moving parts, and it's just absolutely incredible. This feels like it got to the lowest of lows and resolved in such a way that I did not see coming, and yet it was the most perfect ending to a perfect series. My biggest disappointment. I feel so bad about this one too. This was not quite what I expected it to be. Ultimately, I think the reason why this one didn't hit was because it felt very historical, and I was hoping for a little bit more maybe magical, fantastical, and it just didn't have that for me. And there was a severe lack of female characters, and the female characters that we got were sidelined often, and that I've got a little bugaboo about that. So this unfortunately was my biggest disappointment. My new favorite author would be either Benjamin Stevenson, Everyone in My Family Killed Somebody, or M.R. Carey, Once Was William, or Willem. And I would love to read something else by them. The Book of Coley gets a lot of good reviews, and I've got the, oh, look at you! Yeah. And I've got the second Benjamin Stevenson on my holds list, ready to go. Look at all these guys. I just patched up a hole in the fence so they can't get out, and now they're quite perturbed. A book that made me cry was Garden Spells, but it wasn't like tears of sorrow, it was happiness. This was like a really feel-good book. The two books that were anticipated reads for this year that I still need to get to are Overgrowth by Mira Grant. This is, from what I can gather, a sort of annihilation type story. Horror, plants taking over, kind of reminds me of The Day of the Triffids a little bit in that regard. I wanted to read this one for my garden themed project that I've been working on. And then the other one that I'm excited to read and would love to read by the end of the year is A Drop of Corruption, which is the sequel to The Tainted Cup, which I read last year and quite enjoyed. This is my new kind of favorite genre, which is the mystery fantasy sort of subgenre. This is following a detective of sorts who goes and is they're sort of the Watson to the Sherlock. The Sherlock's this like woman who's an absolute savant, and they're her protege, and they solve mysteries. And the first one involved a very high up political consequences kind of thing. This is a cool world that is sort of Asian inspired, kind of reminded me a little more of Japanese, kind of anime like, in that there are like titans attacking the world, and that's a really cool element that's like background to these mysteries, which is actually kind of neat. I like that the impending doom is the backstory. So I look forward to reading this one by the end of the year. An anticipated read or release coming out would be The Strength of the Few, which is the second book to The Will of the Many. And I was pleasantly surprised by this one because James Islington doesn't always hit for me. And the second one is the newest Richard Osman. I feel like every year for this one, I always say the Richard Osman. And I think it's like the fifth book now of the Thursday Murder Club, so count me in on that one. My biggest surprise is actually two that weren't at all what I expected. The first one is The Garden Against Time. This was about a woman restoring a 17th century garden, but she included so much history, the history of the garden, and just the discussion over who gets to have gardens in paradise. It was incredibly dense and thick and wonderful. And the second one is Once Was Willem. And this one surprised me because I knew going into it was going to be kind of Frankenstein-esque, but it ended up tickling my Charles Williams theology mixed with mythology in the medieval era funny bone that I just needed to have, and that's why it surprised me. A book that made me happy, Fourth Wing. It was so fun. It read quickly. It had all of my favorite tropes. It had the right amount of dragons. Probably could have had more, but these were all things that just kind of made me giddy inside, and therefore this one is my happy book. Books that I need to finish for the end of the year, that would be the Long Price Quartet. I really want to do book one for sure. Maybe book two. I would love to get that one knocked out of the park. My favorite video that I made this year so far is either my mood reading vlog or my Fourth Wing reaction video. My mood reading vlog was really fun just because I kind of just got to read whatever I wanted. I didn't have to like think of a through line. But I also really enjoyed having sort of my real-time reaction to Fourth Wing, this phenomenon of a book. I expected to kind of hate on it, but I ended up really enjoying it. So I really liked how that video ended. And lastly, my favorite bookish creators, I'm going to start with Julie. Julie I follow both on YouTube and on Instagram, and I just really like what she puts out and all of the creativity that she just has. And she recently did a Taskmaster Chooses My TBR, so I really enjoyed that. So I'm going to send you over to Julie. And then two creators that have been around for a while that I know everybody knows already, but I'm going to mention them anyway. Books and Lala, she's a legend. She's my instant watch booktuber, and I have almost nothing in common with her, and yet I love watching her so much. And then G over at Book Roast. I really want to give her a shout out because every year she puts on twice a year the Aurelium Readathon, and it is incredible. And I know it takes a ton of extra work. She's just doing this for fun, and I really appreciate her, so I'm sending some love her way. My name is Karen. Thank you so much for watching my freak out tag. We'll see you again soon.